You've seen the viral challenges, the ones that fill your feed for a week then vanish. The cinnamon challenge, the ice bucket challenge. Harmless, mostly. But have you ever wondered about the ones that disappear for a different reason? The ones that get scrubbed from the internet, their hashtags leading to dead ends and deleted accounts. They're whispered about on obscure forums and late-night Discord servers. Their stories passed around like digital ghost stories. But some stories aren't just stories. In the fall of 2022, a challenge began to surface. It wasn't on TikTok or Instagram. It was found in the darker corners of the web. A simple set of instructions with a chilling name, the Banshee's Call. The premise was simple. Follow a short ritual to supposedly hear the wail of a true banshee. Most people who tried it reported hearing nothing. They posted videos of themselves sitting in the dark, looking foolish, and the trend died. Or so we thought. But what about the videos that were taken down? The accounts that went silent? What happened to the people who didn't just hear nothing? What happened to the ones who heard the call and found out it was calling for them? This is the story of one such group. A story pieced together from a single audio file uploaded anonymously before the user and their entire online history vanished forever. It started, as these things so often do, with boredom. My name is Liam, or at least it was. I'm telling you this because I have to. Someone has to know the truth. There were 4 of us back then. Me, Maya, Chloe, and Ben. We were inseparable, bonded by late-night study sessions and a shared, cynical sense of humor. We thought we were invincible, that the world was a game we were smart enough to win. We spent most of our nights scrolling through the internet, looking for the next weird thing, the next rabbit hole to fall down in. That's how Ben found it. It was on some old forgotten forum, the kind with a dated interface and anonymous usernames. The Banshee's Call Challenge, he announced, reading from his laptop screen. Guaranteed to be fake, but sounds spooky. The rules were specific, almost ritualistic. You had to do it at 3 a.m. in a room with a single mirror. All lights had to be out, save for one white candle placed before the glass. You then had to prick your finger, smear a single drop of blood onto the mirror, and whisper an old Gaelic phrase 3 times. A B&C, Clinum dogleo, Tashpain do mon bron atale tak, which, roughly translated, meant, Banshee, I hear your call. Show me the sorrow that is to come. The legend attached was that if the ritual was done correctly, you would hear the faint cry of a banshee, a harbinger of a future death. We laughed it off. A ghost story for the digital age. Chloe was obsessed with folklore and thought it was a fascinating bastardization of Irish myth. Maya, ever the pragmatist, was convinced it was a ploy to get people to film themselves looking stupid in the dark. Ben just wanted an excuse to stay up late and get spooked. And me, I went along with it because we were a team. We agreed to do it together that Friday in my parents' basement. It was a joke. A game. We had no idea that when you call out into the darkness, you can't control what answers back. Friday night arrived thick with an autumn chill that rattled the window panes of my basement. We gathered as planned, armed with a bag of chips, a case of cheap beer, and a nervous energy that masqueraded as excitement. The basement was the perfect setting. Dank, sprawling, and filled with the skeletal shapes of old furniture draped in white sheets. It was our own personal haunted house. Ben brought the candle, a thick, white killer candle he'd swiped from his mom's decorative collection. Chloe had the incantation written on a slip of paper, her handwriting a neat, scholarly script. Maya stood with her arms crossed, an amused smirk on her face, ready to document our collective failure for her social media story. I provided the mirror, a large, oval-shaped antique from my grandmother's house that leaned against the far wall. Its silvered surface was tarnished at the edges, seeming to swallow the little light we had. At 2:55 a.m., we killed the lights. The sudden, oppressive blackness was broken only by the single, wavering flame of the candle Ben lit. It cast long, dancing shadows that made the familiar space feel alien and threatening. Our faces, illuminated from below, looked like grotesque masks. The laughter died in our throats. The mood shifted. The game was suddenly feeling very real. "Okay," Ben whispered, his voice a little too loud in the silence. "Who's going first?" We all looked at each other. No one wanted to volunteer. Finally, Chloe sighed. "Fine, I'll do it, for the sake of folklore." She took the sterilized pin Maya had brought, hesitated for a moment, then pricked the tip of her index finger. A perfect ruby-red bead of blood welled up. With a grimace, she smeared it onto the center of the mirror. The small, crimson smudge seemed to pulse in the candlelight. She took a deep breath, held the paper close to the flame, and began to chant. "A Banshee, clunum do glow, ta spine dome unbrown, a ta le chacht." Her voice was steady, but I could see the slight tremor in her hands. She repeated it a second time, a little louder, and then a third. The final word echoed in the profound silence that followed. We waited. 1 second, 10, 30, nothing. The only sound was the frantic thumping of my own heart and the faint crackle of the candle wick. Finally, Ben broke the tension with a nervous chuckle. "Well, that was a bust." Relief washed over me, so potent it was almost dizzying. It was just a stupid story. Maya pulled out her phone, its screen a blinding rectangle of light. She said, "My turn," her smirk returning. We went through the motions again. Maya pricked her finger, chanted the words with theatrical flair, and waited. Nothing. Then Ben, who rushed through it like he was ordering a coffee. Nothing. Finally, it was my turn. I smeared my blood next to the others, the glass cold against my skin. I spoke the words, my voice low and hesitant, and we waited. The silence stretched on, thick and heavy. I was about to call it, to laugh it off with the others, when the candle flame suddenly dipped, sputtering violently as if caught in a draft, though the air was perfectly still. We all flinched. The flame righted itself, burning steadily once more, and in that moment, we knew it was over. The game was done. It had been a failure, just as we'd expected.
"Well, I'm officially unspooked," Ben declared, flicking on the overhead lights. The harsh fluorescent glare chased away the shadows, and the basement was just a basement again. The mirror looked ordinary, the blood smears just sad little smudges on the glass. We all started talking at once, the nervous energy from the darkness exploding into loud, boisterous relief. We mocked the ritual, our own fear, the absurdity of it all. It felt good to laugh. We were just 4 friends being stupid in a basement, not participants in some ancient dark summoning. As we started to clean up, wiping the blood from the mirror and packing away the candle, Maya suddenly went still. She was staring at the small basement window high up on the wall, her head cocked to one side. "Guys, shut up for a second," she said, her voice quiet. We fell silent, looking at her. "What is it?" I asked. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. I strained my ears, listening. All I could hear was the hum of the refrigerator upstairs and the distant rumble of a truck passing on the highway. The wind howled outside, a common sound for an October night. "I don't hear anything," Ben said, shaking his head. "It's just the wind, Maya." "No, it's not the wind," she insisted, her eyes wide. "It's a sound, like a crying, but really, really far away." We all listened again, a new wave of unease settling over us. The comfortable relief we'd felt just moments before began to evaporate. I wanted to hear it. I wanted to prove it was nothing, just the wind whistling through the eaves or a stray cat. But there was nothing. Just silence. "You're just freaking yourself out," Chloe said gently, placing a hand on Maya's arm. "It's the power of suggestion. We were trying to hear something, so now your brain is inventing it." Maya shook her head, but she let it go. "Yeah, maybe," she mumbled, though she didn't look convinced. She kept glancing towards the window for the rest of the night. The incident was quickly forgotten as we moved on, heading upstairs to raid the fridge and put on a movie. We pushed the memory of the dark, silent basement to the back of our minds. But for me, something lingered. It was the look in Maya's eyes. She wasn't trying to be dramatic, she had genuinely heard something. As my friends finally left in the early hours of the morning, their laughter echoing down the driveway, I stood at the door and listened to the wind. It sounded like it always had. A lonely, mournful sound, but nothing more. There was no distant crying, no supernatural wail. It was just the wind. I told myself Chloe was right. It was the power of suggestion. We had called out into the darkness, and the darkness, in its own way, had played a trick on our minds. We were safe. The game was over. I went to bed that night feeling foolish, but relieved. I didn't know then that the game wasn't over. It had just begun. And the silence we heard wasn't an answer. It was just the darkness taking a breath before it screamed.
Ben's death shattered our group. Maya refused to speak to me, blocking my calls and texts. She was clinging to denial like a life raft, and I was the storm threatening to sink her. That left me and Chloe. We became reluctant allies, bound by a shared terror we couldn't voice to anyone else. We started researching, frantically scouring the internet for any information about the Banshee's call, but it was like it had never existed. The original forum post was gone, the link leading to a 404 error. Any cached versions we found were corrupted. It was as if someone, or something, was actively erasing its digital footprint. Chloe's paranoia intensified. She developed a specific, crippling fear: reflections. She covered the mirrors in her apartment with blankets and taped over the screen of her television. "I see her, Liam," she'd tell me during hushed late-night phone calls. "In the corner of my eye. When I look in a mirror, she's there, standing behind me. She's all gray and thin like smoke, and her face is just a blur of grief." I tried to be the rational one, for her sake. I told her grief and stress could cause hallucinations. I even offered to stay with her, but she refused, saying she didn't want to bring it near me. The wailing sound I heard on my phone was changing. It was no longer just a faint electronic warble. It was clearer now, more organic. It was the unmistakable sound of a woman weeping, a sound so filled with anguish it made the hairs on my arms stand up. It would bleed through my headphones when I listened to music, a phantom voice in the static between songs. It was a constant, haunting reminder of what we had done. One night, my phone rang. It was Chloe. She wasn't whispering this time. She was screaming. It was a raw, guttural sound of pure terror. "Liam, she's here! She's in the mirror! Oh God, she's right here!" I could hear the sound of shattering glass and then a wet, choking noise. The line went dead. I didn't even stop to put on shoes. I sprinted the 6 blocks to her apartment building, taking the stairs 2 at a time. I pounded on her door, screaming her name. When there was no answer, I threw my shoulder against it until the lock splintered and the door flew open. Her apartment was empty. It was eerily silent, the only sound the frantic pounding of my own blood in my ears. The blanket she had draped over her large living room mirror was torn aside, lying in a heap on the floor. The mirror itself was untouched. I moved cautiously through the small apartment, my heart in my throat. I checked the bedroom, the kitchen, nothing. Then I pushed open the bathroom door. The room was a wreck. The medicine cabinet mirror was shattered, shards littering the sink and floor like jagged teeth. The shower curtain was pulled halfway off its rod.
And on the floor, next to the tub, was her phone. Its screen cracked. But Chloe was gone. There was no sign of a struggle, no blood, nothing to suggest what had happened. She had just vanished. The police investigation went nowhere. They treated it as a missing person case, suggesting she'd had a breakdown due to Ben's death and had simply walked away. They didn't listen when I tried to tell them about the challenge, about the figure in the mirror. They just gave me pitying looks and a pamphlet for a grief counselor. I was alone. The others had tried to run from it, to deny it, and now they were gone. I knew then that denial wasn't an option. You can't run from a sound. You can't hide from a shadow that wears your own grief as a mask. The call had come for Ben, and it had come for Chloe. And I knew with a certainty that chilled me to my very soul that it would soon come for me.
With Chloe and Ben gone, there was only one person left, Maya. I had to warn her. I had to make her believe me. I drove to her apartment, my mind racing. What could I even say? How could I explain that our stupid, drunken game had unleashed something that was now hunting us down one by one? I found her packing boxes, her face pale and strained. She was planning to leave town, to go stay with her sister in another state. When she saw me, her expression hardened. "Get out, Liam." "Maya, please, you have to listen to me," I begged, stepping inside before she could slam the door. "Chloe is missing. I think something happened to her. Something to do with the challenge." "She's not missing. She's grieving," she snapped, refusing to look at me. "Just like I am, and running away is a perfectly sane response to what happened to Ben." "It's not just grief," I insisted, my voice rising with desperation. "It's the sound. Don't you hear it? The weeping? It's getting louder. It's real." That's when she finally broke. Her face crumpled and she sank onto a stack of boxes, burying her face in her hands. Sobs racked her body. "I do hear it," she confessed through tears, her voice muffled. "I've been hearing it ever since that night. I didn't want to believe it." She looked up at me, her eyes filled with a terrifying mixture of fear and guilt. "I lied, Liam. That night in your basement, I didn't just hear something. When the candle flickered, for just a second, I saw a face in the mirror. It was pale, with hollow eyes, and it was screaming. It was the most horrible thing I've ever seen." We sat there in silence for a long time, the truth hanging in the air between us, heavy and suffocating. We had been marked. The ritual hadn't failed. It had worked perfectly. It had opened our senses to the harbinger, and now we couldn't shut it out. Maya was convinced leaving was the only answer. "It's tied to that place, to this town," she reasoned, her voice regaining a sliver of hope. "If I can just get far enough away, maybe it can't follow me." I wanted to believe her, but a cold knot of dread in my stomach told me otherwise. This thing wasn't bound by geography. It was bound to us. Still, I helped her load the last of her boxes into her car. As she was about to get in, she hugged me tightly. "Be careful, Liam. Don't listen." She drove away, and I watched until her taillights disappeared around the corner. I felt a profound sense of isolation, a loneliness so deep it was a physical ache. I was the last one left in the city that now felt like a hunting ground. That night, the sound changed again. It was no longer a distant cry or a whisper in the static. It was close. It sounded like it was right outside my bedroom window, a full-throated, desolate keen that seeped through the glass and filled my room with its sorrow. It was the sound of ultimate loss, a grief so powerful it felt like it could curdle blood. I huddled under my covers, my hands clamped over my ears, but it made no difference. I could feel the sound vibrating in my bones. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was a voicemail from Maya. I listened, my hand shaking. It wasn't her voice. It was just the sound of a car engine, the radio playing softly, and then, overpowering everything, the sound of that horrible, heartbreaking wail. It grew louder and louder until it was a deafening shriek, followed by the crunch of metal and the tinkle of shattering glass. Then silence. I never heard from Maya again.
I am recording this now because I don't have much time. I don't know who will find this. Maybe no one. But I can't let this story die with me. I can't let us be forgotten, dismissed as tragic accidents and a runaway case. We didn't run. We were hunted. After Maya, after the voicemail, I stopped trying to live. I started trying to survive. I boarded up my windows. I unplugged everything, my phone, my laptop, my TV. I live in silence now, or what passes for it. The wailing is a constant companion. Sometimes it's a whisper that seems to come from the corner of the room. Other times it's a scream that rattles the very foundations of the house. It's a symphony of grief, and it's all for me. I haven't slept in what feels like weeks. Every time I close my eyes, I see her, the woman from the mirror. Her image is clearer in my mind now, pieced together from Chloe's terrified descriptions and Maya's tearful confession. Long, stringy black hair that hangs like wet seaweed, a gaunt, pale face with hollow, black pits for eyes, and a mouth, wide and gaping, frozen in a silent scream. She is the source of the sound. She is the sorrow that was to come. She is my own personal harbinger, and she has grown so very patient. I've tried everything. Salt lines, holy water, symbols I barely understand that I copied from websites about warding off evil. Nothing works. The wail simply passes through them, a sound that cannot be contained by physical barriers. It's not a ghost that haunts a place. It's a curse that clings to a person. A promise. Last night something new happened. The wailing stopped. For the first time in weeks, my world was silent. The relief was so profound I almost wept. I thought for one insane moment that it was over, that my trial had ended. But the silence was worse. It was an expectant silence, a held breath. It was the silence of a predator that has stopped chasing its prey because it knows it has it cornered. And then I heard it. A new sound. A soft, wet weeping. It wasn't outside my window or in the static anymore. It was coming from the other side of my bedroom door. It was intimate, close. It was the sound of someone crying just for me. It's been going on for hours. A quiet, patient, heartbreaking sob. I'm huddled in my closet, whispering into this audio recorder. The door to my room is locked and I've wedged a chair under the handle, but I know it won't matter. A few minutes ago, the wailing stopped. The silence returned, more terrifying than before. And then I heard her whisper. She whispered my name, a cold, airy sound like dead leaves skittering across pavement. Liam! It came from right outside the closet. And now I hear scratching, a slow, deliberate scraping sound on the wood of the closet door, right at head level. It's not stopping. Scratch, scrape, scratch. It knows I'm in here. The call has been made, and the sorrow has finally come.